paladins, the typical knight in shining armor, the hero of justice, valor, courage, all great things. In this video today, I want to help you build a paladin out in Oblivion Remastered. And there's a number of ways that you can do this. So in my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge of my videos, let me give you the too long didn't watch this entire thing. So what we'll be doing here for specialization is going with combat. Our favorite attributes will be strength and willpower. We'll be going over alternatives later in the video, but there are some different ones you can choose here. For our major skills, I've flavored this with armor, block, blunt, and heavy armor. I'll be explaining that later. And then for our magic, we'll be going with alteration, restoration, and lastly, conjuration to give us the turn the undead. That is why we're choosing it. We don't really care about the summons. Then for our Birthsign, we'll be going with the Lord. And as far as our race options, we have Breton, we have Nord, Redguard, and Imperial are all real great options for choosing a Paladin in Oblivion Remastered. But as always too, this is a single player narrative game, so have fun with this. I hope this guide aims to inspire you on how to go with a Paladin, not necessarily taken as creed. You can follow it word for word or spice into your own direction with different magic, and I'll be going over different magic schools that you can go with rather than the ones that I have listed. But that's the too long didn't watch this entire video, and if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. You can also navigate to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters about the timeline in the description. And if you do end up heading out and you found the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe because each one of those helps me out in a huge way. Lastly, if you've not yet purchased the game, you can find a link to Fanatical in the description and pinned comment, which will give you a Steam version of the game for 17% off. And I make something like a 4% commission, which goes directly towards my mini Aussies toy fund. But let's get started here on my ultimate Paladin build in Oblivion Remastered. So to start us off, let's talk about our race selections for this build. I'm going to focus on 4 races primarily that are pretty much like varying levels of focus on either Magicka or on melee. The first one I think is a bit of a no-brainer. I think this is typically what people's min-max option is for a Paladin. It's the Breton, because the Breton gives us a nice 50 Magicka bonus. In addition, it will also give us a bonus to our magic resist of 50, allowing us to have a lot of fun with different birth signs. We have 2 different origins to choose from, Sistrus and High Rock. I would go with Sistrus because that keeps our strength at 40, but we lose 10 speed. If we go with High Rock, we swap that. So our speed is 40, but our strength is 30. So I would go with Sistrus and just try to get my speed up throughout my leveling process here and there. This is going to, of course, affect your mobility in the game. But this also gives us 50 intelligence and 50 willpower. 2 of our other stats that are very important. We will have lower endurance though, so we're going to want to invest into that. But this is a really good one that's going to give us access to some great skills. And those skills are a lot of the ones that we're going to be using. So we're going to get +5 to everything. I wouldn't worry about that. But we're going to be using Alteration. Conjuration, I know it sounds funky, is actually part of this build because of Turn the Undead. Illusion is one of our wildcard choices for skills. Mysticism is good to just have high because of Soul Trap, but Restoration is our primary spell school, right? So we can take advantage of that. So Breton is a real good choice here. Another real fun one, especially thematically because it is Cyrodiil, is Imperial. I actually did, my very first character that was a Paladin was Imperial, and I was just fine with it. They have 2 really cool capabilities that allow them to help out with Mercantile and with Charm. Yeah, I believe so. They get spells that do those things, so they can help you out when it comes to selling stuff. But their focus is on heavy armor and some other fun stuff. We have 2 different origins, Nibene and Colovia, as you can see here. And again, here I would choose Colovia to lower our willpower and increase our willpower and lower our speed. Another argument can be taken here, since willpower will be one of our chosen attributes, that you could go like this instead to offset it, but it's dealer's choice, I suppose. I just like Colovia because I want even more willpower to take advantage of, because remember, willpower is our Magicka regeneration. But this gives us a nice baseline of 40, 40, 40 across strength, intelligence, and willpower, but we get 40 endurance, which is really nice as well. The biggest thing here is going to be the bonuses and skills. So our skill bonuses are going to apply to Blade, which we're not necessarily going to use, but we are going to use Blunt. Heavy armor gets a +15 to it. And then we're also going to get bonuses to stuff like Mercantile and Speechcraft, which fit into like the charisma role, the personality role of a thematic paladin. Unfortunately, that's not really tied to anything in Oblivion Remastered, or just Oblivion and Elder Scrolls in general. But it is worth noting if you want to go with more of that like charismatic play style paladin, it is there. Now, arguably, the best race outside of Breton is Nord. Nord gets a really cool frost ability, but they have a natural resistance to frost, and they actually have great stats for a what's this thing called? A paladin character. So we have a choice between Western or Eastern. You can see the effect here. Western gives us more endurance, less willpower, and less intelligence. I'm sorry, just less willpower. Eastern gives us less endurance, but more willpower. I think Western here is actually the call, because having a lot of endurance out the gate is really good, because then we can just focus on willpower as we see fit. But it's worth noting that both intelligence and willpower will be at 30, versus our strength and endurance will both be at 50. So there's a clear trade-off, right? We're getting those 10 points diverted directly into our offensive melee capabilities, versus the other ones are going to make our spells suffer a little bit. But outside of that, our skills are pretty much on point with what we're taking. Armorer, block, blunt, heavy armor, and restoration will all get skill bonuses. So Nord is actually a surprisingly good choice for Paladin from a skill standpoint, decent from an attribute standpoint. Our last option here, though, is Redguard. Redguard's going to focus more on the melee portion here. You know, it's kind of, you kind of look at it, it's like Breton is most of the spell casting, Imperial's less the spell casting, Nord is more of the melee, Redguard is most of the melee. Because we have two different options here for either Dragontail Mountains or Alakir Desert. And we're going to basically be choosing between more strength and less personality. That's kind of the trade-off here. And I'll go with Dragontail any day. So we'll have 50 strength, 50 endurance, but then 30 and 30 on intelligence and willpower. What the Redguard do get, though, is their Fury. Adrenaline Rush is really good. It gives them tons of benefits, unlike the Orc, which has a Frenzy, which gives them benefits, and then like I think it hurts their agility or their fatigue, one or the other, I can't remember. Redguard don't get that. It's just all benefit to them. So Redguard have a really good Adrenaline Rush, which is really great in close combat. And when it comes to their skills, they get a plus 15 to athletics, which is just nice out the gate. Even though we're not choosing that as a major skill, they're going to run quicker, faster. I mean that in the sense that they will run faster on land at a quicker rate because their skill's already closer to 100. But we're going to get a plus 15 to blunt, a plus 10 to heavy armor. Unfortunately, though, we don't get any benefit to any of the spellcasting schools that we're going to choose, but we do get a bonus to mercantile here. So I really like Redguard too if you want to go with melee. So again, Breton I think is probably the internet's choice for a best Breton, a best Paladin. But I will say this. It's a single player narrative game, as I've said before. If you want to make a Khajiit Paladin, then fucking do it. If you want to do a Wood Elf Paladin, I'm not going to stop you. No one's going to stop you from choosing a Dark Elf. I would choose a Dark Elf. It's one of my favorite races in any game. High Elf actually really cool for this because High Elves get a ton of magicka at 100. They have really low strength, but they get a lot of bonuses to all spellcasting schools. There's always going to be a benefit to any race you choose, so don't feel too pigeonholed by what I've said in this video. Like I said, Dark Elf here gets a bonus to Blade if you want it, Blade and Blunt if you wanted to go with Blade for your character or not. So there's plenty of ways you can go about it, but those are my 4 picks for your race selection. Now, after having chosen our race, let's talk about birth signs. Now, there are some really big standout ones. What I'm going to try to build into this character is the Lord. The Lord has 2 things I want. Shield, increase armor rating by 15, and resist magic, increases magic resistance by 15%. Now, in the game, you can have a max shield on your character of 85%. This is not like an armor rating. It's a 15% shield is what that is saying right there. What we want to try to do here is stack that capability through a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about across Alteration and the Blunt skill. So that's why I'm going with Lord, and I think it thematically fits. It's really cool. It makes us a little bit tankier. If you're going with maybe a Breton, one of the min-max options here, and not even necessarily min-max, one of the really cool options is the Atronach. It's going to increase your magicka points by 150. So if you do go with that Breton, you now have 200 magicka to start without even factoring in your intelligence. Then you have a spell absorption of 50%. So what spell absorption means in this game is you have a 50% chance to absorb the entirety of a spell that was cast upon you. So this has usefulness in the beginning of the game all the way to the end of the game. It's not that you absorb 50% of the spell, you absorb all the spell. It's a 50% chance to go off. This will stack with other spell absorption effects. So if we stack other spell absorption effects, either over enchants or different spells in the game, it will stack with this. Just like the shield effect here will stack with other shield effects that'll affect your character. So we'll want to stack those if you want to go with those. Now, the last thing here to take note with the Atronach is that its magicka regeneration is halted. So you don't regenerate magicka out of combat, period, anything, nothing like that. But instead, you just have the chance to absorb spells that will then, quote unquote, heal or restore your magicka. So those are two really good options for this. If you want to just focus purely on the combat and the spell casting is more secondary for you and you just want to really factor pure aggression, the warrior is going to be for you. Endurance is going to increase your health. Strength is going to increase your health as well, but it's going to increase your attack damage as well as your carry capacity. Warrior really fits this build. I don't like the mage as much because it's just simply a magicka buff. You can go with it. By all means, it's not going to hurt you. And another option here too is the apprentice increases magicka by 100. Just know that increases susceptibility to magic by 100%, meaning you start with a minus 100% to magic in the resist column. If you were a Breton, you would offset that by 50. So it would be increases magicka by 100 plus your 50 as a Breton. So you'd be at 150. And then your weakness to magic would only be at negative 50% because you have a positive 50. It's kind of funky there, right? Now here's another wild card pick that you can choose with Birthsign. It's the Ritual, because this is like a very typical D&D paladin. Blessed Word is basically it's a turn undead ability that you can use. It costs 40 magicka to cast. And then Mara's Gift is basically lay on hands. Restores 200 points of health, can be used once per day. So if you want to go with something that is just very much a D&D paladin, Ritual is that. So again, just to quickly recap, I recommend Lord because I'm looking at stacking the shield mechanic. Secondary to that, I would probably go with Atronach because it's just so fun to really play with spell absorption and stack it, because we'll be able to do that quite a bit with our spell school choices. And lastly, probably go with something with Warrior. These other ones are a little bit more magicka related, and this is more of a thematic pick. Now, creating the class itself, let's take a look over here at class selection. Now, the Crusader is very similar to this build. It uses both blade and blunt, which for me, and hand-to-hand, which that's 3 levels of redundancy and major skills that I don't really like. Knight is also very similar here with blade, block, blunt, hand-to-hand, heavy armor, illusion, and speechcraft. You could swap out hand-to-hand with like restoration, and that's still a pretty cool paladin character. But we're going to go custom class right here. And remember, we're going to choose combat. Remember, for the specialization, all 7 skills of your specialization, there's 21 skills in the game, 7 in each one of these specializations. They will all get a +5, meaning the ones that we're going to take primarily, blade, armor, block, blunt, blunt, armorer, heavy armor, and block, or whatever one. I've said it twice now. We're going to have 5 of the 7 is my point. So we're going to get a +5 level bonus on those, and they'll increase more rapidly. So we want that as our selected specialization. Then for our attributes here, I'm going to select strength and willpower. Strength, remember, is going to help out with the damage of all blade and blunt weapons. So even if you decide to take this build and don't choose blunt like I've said and want to go blade, strength is still crucial to it. But it also helps out with increasing your carry capacity and increases your max health. Willpower, I like this because it's going to help us regenerate our magicka, and it'll help out with our max fatigue. I look at this as more of a melee character, less so than my spell sword character that I already did the Death Knight build. I look at that as more of a casting melee character. This I look at as a melee character that can cast. So I want willpower to help me regenerate that fatigue. An alternative here you could take instead of willpower would be endurance for just straight up health and health regen. And alternatively too, rather than strength, you could go intelligence for focusing on more of the spellcasting mechanics. So you do have those alternate options if you so wish. When it comes to skills, let's break this down. So the first one we're going to select here is Armorer. And Armorer is different here in Oblivion Remastered. You are now able to repair stuff you can repair stuff that's magic at Apprentice, which before you had to wait till Expert. So you can get access to that quicker. You don't necessarily need to take this as a major skill because it's going to level up quite quickly, but thematically, I really like the choice here, and it's what I'm going with. Blunt is another one that I think is going to be not necessarily a controversial pick, but there are a lot of really good blade weapons in the game, and a lot of them are themed very similar to a paladin. But conversely, there are a lot of really good blunt weapons in the game that are themed towards paladin, and it's also a pick that is not common. I wanted to do a build that focuses on blunt because blunt has a different set of mechanics in this game compared to how it did in Oblivion OG, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So I'm going with blunt. Remember, blunt also includes axes here, but you could just as easily swap blade in here if you want. We're going with block because block is actually a hard skill to raise because you need to actually block with it to raise it, which makes sense, right? You can swing on stuff with a weapon and raise it pretty quickly. Blocking, you have to pretty much like either find a way to cheese it, which is easily done, or you have to just be very conscious about blocking it. So I want as many points as possible. And then heavy armor, we want this to get to 50 as fast as possible because once it gets to 50, it will turn our spell casting effectiveness. That penalty will only be 95%, so it's pretty good. Then for our spells, this can be a little bit of dealer's choice here. I think restoration is a no-brainer because this is our restore, fortify, and absorb attributes and skills. This is our cure diseases. This is our improving resistances. This is like your primary paladin spell school. Alteration, I think, falls very close to that though. Affects your ability to cast spells, breathe on water, blah, blah, blah. We don't care about those, but a lot of different shield spells, and that's crucial. I want to play with a lot of the elemental shield spells, which are shield spells that also give you a resist to a specific magic type, and the shield spell, which will outright mitigate damage. Remember, the max shield you can have on a character is 85%, even if it's like 150 in your stats. 85 is what the game factors in. Lastly, this is the wild card pick. Conjuration is what I've gone with. I will be ignoring the summons for this build because I'm going to be focusing on Turn the Undead. You could just as easily go with summons if you want. Maybe you want to go with some sort of like Oathbreaker Paladin that summons the undead. Please, by all means, a Fallen Paladin, do it. Who cares? It's cool. You play the game however the fuck you want. Some other options, though, are Illusion. Illusion's cool here because you have the ability to charm people. You have the capacity to rally and demoralize people. So those play very well into this school. It fits very thematically, even if the name itself doesn't. Because you think of something like Silence and Paralyze, those aren't really very paladin things, but Command is. That's very much a paladin thing. And lifting up others by affecting their morale is very much a paladin thing as well. You can go with something like Mysticism as well, because this absorbs magic and it reflects damage. So if you wanted to really stack that Atronach capability to absorb spells, Mysticism is here. The reason I don't have it as a major skill, though, is you'll be using Mysticism in every single one of your builds because you need the Soul Trap spell. So you'll always be raising it. I'd rather get skill bonuses on the schools I find a little bit harder to raise naturally through my gameplay versus Mysticism. I'm going to start casting Soul Trap on everything by 10 levels into the game. So this will level up very fast on its own. So that's an option. And one more wildcard pick you can take is I think it's over here in stealth, is Speechcraft, because you're a paladin, so you're charismatic. So that does exist within the role of this. I mean, personality would have been a skill if things based their attack and offensive skills off of personality. But it doesn't work like that in Oblivion. I'm just talking about it from a thematic standpoint. But this is the way I would play this build, using Conjuration for that Turn Undead. Turn the Undead is a very strong capability in this game. Talking very quickly on the subject matter of spell effectiveness, which we brought up before. Remember this percentage right here, it says 87% spell effectiveness. So any spell you cast is only 87% effective. So if I were to do a spell that did 100 damage or healed for 100, it would actually only heal for 87. That number will raise to a max of 95 if you are wearing armor, and that point happens at roughly 50 skill in either light or heavy armor. So don't worry about it. It's just worth bringing up in case you're worried about it. It's your first time playing through this game. I wanted to give you some insight into how it all works. So one of the big effects that I'm going to be working with this build is the shield. And to talk about this is the shield that we get from our birth sign. It says 15%. I've talked about this before throughout the entire video. 85% is the max that this total value can reach across your armor, everything. And if you're brand new to the game, don't worry about that. Just play and have fun. If you're a veteran and you understand how to acquire 85% quickly early in the game, then this allows you to kind of frame this build in a different way for yourself. But it's me talking about this, so for anyone who doesn't know. So you can get this shield effect from multiple sources in the game, as long as it's not the same spell or the same effect. So for example, I cannot cast Protect twice to get 10% shield. It will just give me 5% and renew the amount. So I'm going to try to stack these shield effects on my character. And we can do that through a number of ways. Let's take a look right now. I'm going to show you that active effect said 15, right? We're going to cast this. Now, if I go back to magic into my active effects, I'll have a total amount here of 15% for my Lord Birthsign, but an additional 4% because of my spell effectiveness we just talked about. So now my total shield percent is 19. So we're going to be able to stack this very quick, very early. But there's one more layer to it, and it's why we've gone with one of our specific abilities here. It is, Blunt. So Blunt was revamped in Oblivion Remastered. You now do power attacks that deal more damage, and blunt weapons are more durable at Apprentice, which we get right out the gate. But then your power attacks temporarily grant you a shield. That value at 50 is 15%. So if I never cast any alteration spells for the longevity of this character, then I will always get, as long as I have 50 blunt, 30% shield on the character. 15 from my Lord sign, and then 15 from that power attack in the journeyman section. Then once you get to master, I don't know what that shield magnitude is. I've seen a bunch of different conflicting things online, and I don't have a blunt master capable character. I know I can type it into the console, but it breaks my achievements, and there's a bunch of things you have to do to either undo that and other crap. So I've just not done it. I apologize if that appears lazy. But for the shield that granted by the power attacks here, I've heard that it can be 20%. I've heard that it's up to 30%. Let's assume it's 20. We'll take the lowest one. That's still 35% shield on a master blunt just by simply playing with your weapon. So I like, that's wild. But we're taking alteration here, right? So we're going to be able to cast shield onto our character. A lot of really fun things come with the combination of blunt, alteration, and our Lord sign. So shield is a big mechanic for this character, and it fits very thematically into the way that I would want a paladin in this game. For this character's progression, I would focus very heavily onto my strength. My strength is what's going to increase my weapon damage, and like I've said before, I look at this as more of a melee character. It's also going to help out with my carry capacity. Until you get your heavy armor up to expert and or master, it's going to really weigh you down. So getting your strength up really helps you out. Also, in addition to that, I'm really going to want to work on my endurance, and I'm going to want to work on my intelligence. The reason I like working on these three is one is going to give me more health or more mana. One is going to give me more health. One is going to give me more direct damage. But I don't want willpower to fall to the wayside. So what I would tell you is every single time you level up, maybe drop 5 points here into strength. And factor it for yourself. And I've always kind of chosen these attributes as it flows with the character that I'm doing. Am I really hurting for mana? Well, then I'm going to put more into intelligence, more maybe into willpower. Am I hurting with fatigue? Well, it's going to go into my willpower. I think a baseline I'd want to get everything to is 40 before I really invested heavily towards one direction. So if this is my actual second level, I would probably do something like this. That way my willpower is stabilized at 40. My strength is starting to push ahead, and my endurance is getting little bumps. This way it gives me enough health to keep going. I have a good regeneration, and I'm increasing my damage. But as I leveled up, I'd say to myself, you know what? I now am able to really hold my own damage wise, but my magicka is just draining too fast. Well, you really need to, in that case, increase your intelligence. And reason you don't want intelligence to fall to the wayside too much is as you level up through your casting schools, if your intelligence is too low, then you cannot cast high level spells. Your high level spells are predicated upon two things. One, the respective skill level. And two, do you have enough magicka to cast that? You can fortify intelligence and fortify magicka for sure, but you want to be able to just have some good baseline of magicka. And if you're playing a Breton, that's not going to be as big of an issue for you, allowing your intelligence to kind of lag back a little bit. So this is also going to be predicated upon what race you're going with too. If you are one that had much of a lower strength, focus on that more in the beginning, but keep your strength kind of riding high. Follow it up with willpower and intelligence in equal measure as far as you need, and make sure your endurance doesn't trail too far, because that is your health pool. You can focus on stuff like luck. It's not how I play the game. I know a lot of people do. It's there for you if you want to. Speed for me, I'm pretty fine with it at 50. And agility, we don't need to worry about. And a personality, you can put that up if you so wish. I don't really necessarily focus in it, and I've never had a problem in any of my builds. To close our video out really quickly, I'm going to show off some of the spells that we're going to be able to tap into. I believe very heavily in doing no spoiler videos, so I don't want to ruin what all these spells look like, what that playstyle looks like. It's, of course, just jump into it and have fun however you see fit. But you're going to get a lot of cool stuff here with heal superior wounds, superior convalescence, a lot of restoring health on your character, a lot of fortifying specific attributes, fortifying specific skills, absorbing skills, all that's done here. But we also get resist magic built into our restoration. So this turns on tons of defensive characteristics early in this build, and also keeps a lot of health topped off for you. So that's one of the best things here that you can take advantage of. But I want to also show alteration spells, which give us some really cool stuff as we kind of jump into the later levels, Journeyman and Expert. Expert here gives us Fire Shield. So how Fire Shield specifically works in this game, it's going to give you 30 magic resist and then 30% shield. So if you were to cast Fire Shield and then use your Mace's shield and then use your Lord's shield, you have 60% shield between all that. So you get to have a lot of fun. Here's the 40% shield that you can just outright cast. That gives you 70% shield on your character. So Alteration is really fun, and Feather 2 is really going to be helpful for you. Fortifying your strength is a better form of helping out with encumbrance, but Feathers 2 to just lighten the load, quite literally. Lighten the load, as a quote from Lord of the Rings right there. But I really like these characteristics, these spells. They fit so well into a paladin and the role of being some sort of defender and having a lot of tanky capabilities. Between restoration and alteration, you can just have so much fun. So hopefully that gives you a better idea on how to approach a paladin in Oblivion Remastered. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. I'd even talk about illusion and how you can really have fun with those characteristics, or mysticism and how you can play with the absorb mechanic. All of those things do exist, and they're not wrong. Playing a different Birthsign, playing a different race is not a wrong way to play this build. So please have fun with it. Choose this thing. Like I said, I hope this build inspires you rather than is a creed as a way to play. But if you have different recommendations on how to approach this build, let it be known in the comment section below. Help inspire people to choose their own path in Oblivion Remastered. It's the most important thing about this game. Play the game however the fuck you want. Disregard what the internet tells you, because you are playing your game, not someone else's. So at that, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.